Hello everyone. In this episode, we're going to talk about a few Easter eggs and potential things that you may have missed in the new Morbius film. So, let's break it down. Right off the bat, we're dropped in Costa Rica where Morbius conducts his experiments, and we quickly get these words flashed across the screen in a different language, which translates to the Hill of Death, which is a nice little nod because vampires are supposed to be undead. And then we get a little backstory on Morbius and his best friend Lucian, who he calls Milo throughout the film, which was a little confusing at first when we first found out before the film came out. But he explains that he has just seen so many of his friends come and go quickly that eventually they started to flow together, and it's easier just to treat them all the same and not get too attached. As he ages, he eventually comes to work at Horizon Labs, which is an actual location from the comics. Similarly, the blue and purple tones we see throughout this entire film really reflect his comic-accurate appearance, as well as the consistent V-shapes we see. Even his coat has this inner purple lining that is also very comic-accurate. And this one's a little more obvious, but there were numerous Matrix nods as the movie has a constant battle between the colors blue and red, symbolizing not only the different types of blood in the film, but also the way his eyes turn from blue to red when he goes into his vampiric form. And not only that, but we also get a clear nod by the dodging of bullets in slow motion after his very first transformation. One question I did have was, why did the bats not like Milo? They disliked Morbius? I mean, if they had the exact same powers taken from the exact same type of bat, didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So if someone could answer that, that would be greatly appreciated. But these sewer bats were actually foreshadowed for the final scene. When we get this news report along the bottom, you can actually see the bats being talked about as an issue and how they're just basically taking over the entire sewer system, which gives a bit more of an explainer on where this whole flood of bats even came from. Talking about Milo, though, I gotta say I loved the prancing around and the sheer cockiness he had with his new abilities. If you have no moral compass, that's like exactly what a lot of us would end up doing anyways. And so the way that the actor portrayed this character, I found it very enjoyable every time he came on scene. He really did carry this film to me. And then about some other comedy that we get to see. Morbius actually says the lines, "You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry," which sounds awfully familiar to the line said by Edward Norton in The Incredible Hulk, which is pretty bold little reference, but there's also a numerous of really strange bold references in this film. Say how the Daily Bugle logo is the same one from Tobey Maguire's films, or how there's references to Black Cat and Rhino, who we saw in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. None of them really make any kind of sense. And who knows how long until they do, if they ever will. And speaking about that, the post-credit scene, I believe, could have been a little more serious, rather than Adrian Toomes just sort of immediately accepting that he's somehow on a completely different Earth in an alternate reality. He just kind of shows up and is fine with it. Just kind of cracks a joke and that's it. And even the news team, they even could have touched upon the gigantic purple dimensional rift in the sky and discussed the problem of whether or not more people are appearing and disappearing in their universe. A better way to fix this would have been to bring in the Scorpion. I think that would have been way cooler and probably made more sense character-wise than Adrian Toomes, that already had his redemption arc, and we've already got a setup for Scorpion and we have not seen him in anything yet. As for the next film, the love interest will probably come back as a villain, if not the main villain, since she actually died while also taking some of Morbius's blood, which means she's probably a real vampire now, which is going to cause probably a serious outbreak if Morbius doesn't get it under control, if this movie will even get a second film. And this movie leaves a lot more questions than answers. I mean, we still have a lot of confusion on who the Spider-Man of this universe is. If Sony wants to have their own shot at a separate universe, it'd probably make the most sense if it was Andrew Garfield, considering his most recent success from coming back in No Way Home and how his story just really isn't complete. But I guess we'll just be left to wondering, and hopefully they make the right decision. And that's really everything I could find in this movie. I didn't go back and watch it a second time. I didn't think the movie was as bad as everyone is saying, and I honestly wouldn't mind going back and watching it again, but I think I'm just going to wait for it to come out on streaming services. So if there is anything I missed, let me know down below because I would love to hear it. And comment below what you thought of this movie. And that's it. See ya.